Hi, I'm Jenny Block, author of Be That Unicorn, and you're tuned into So Booking Cool with Jewel B.
Welcome to So Booking Cool. It's Jewel B. Today's guest is a Texas-based author as well as lifestyle, travel, food, and entertainment writer. She is also a speaker. Her book, Open, Love, Sex, and Life in an Open Marriage, was written up and/or reviewed both nationally and internationally by the likes of Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, The Guardian, and The New York Times, just to name a few. She's also appeared on numerous television and radio programs, including Fox and Friends, The Glenn Beck Show, The Tyra Banks Show, BBC Radio, and has written for the likes of The Huffington Post, to name a few. And her new book is Be That Unicorn, Find Your Magic, Live Your Truth, Share Your Shine. She is Jenny Block. Hello, Jenny. How has 2020 been going so far?
Well, it's been very exciting. I am obviously sad to hear about the coronavirus and people not being able to travel and people getting sick and not be able to get on with their lives. But barring that, in terms of the book and just sort of life in general, it's been kind of amazing and a bit of a whirlwind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of, this is not your first book. You've written three, right, prior to Be That Unicorn?
That's exactly right. Yeah, this is my fourth book.
Congratulations on that.
Thanks. Thank you.
No problem. And, I want to know, as a writer and author, how do you decide when you want a topic or theme to be written as a book or as an article?
Oh, that is a great question. It seems to me that articles and books sort of present themselves to me. And when they come to me, they do sort of present themselves as one or the other. Like I can either sit down and just write something up, whether it's an outline or the whole article, and I think that's plenty, it's there, you've done it. And other times I start writing and think there's no way that I can handle this in 500 or 1,000 words, which 500, 1,000, 3,000, and much more than that. And it's tough to keep in readers' interest unless you're talking about a book with, more than one chapter in it. So that happens where it sort of comes to me that way. Or like with my very first book, I wrote an article and then a publisher came to me and said, could this be a whole book? And I did have to think for a minute. I don't know. Could this be a whole book? And it turned out, yeah, absolutely. Be That Unicorn definitely presented itself as a book. Like the minute I, really started sitting down and saying to myself, I want this, what am I writing here? What do I want to say? I realized there was no way I could handle it in just an article.
So how did your love for writing start?
Well, my mom will tell you that I've been writing and publishing books since I was a kid. There was some book I wrote about ants, and I wrote it on all the pieces of paper. My mom put it together and sewed it and made a book cover out of wallpaper, as I remember. So I guess I've always been writing. And then I was, started out as a journalism major in college and then got yelled at by the very first professor I had who told me I was a terrible writer and should stop writing right away. And so I became an English major instead, where I still did plenty of writing. And ironically, here I am, a writer. Lesson to myself and everyone else: never tell a student they can't do something, which is probably why I taught college writing for a long time. But I guess I've always loved writing. I've always loved reading other people's writing, and I've always felt like that was sort of a magic I could do, that I was never able to draw. I'm terrible with clay, no good at sports at all. But when it comes to the written word, that I found I was pretty good at.
Wow. Why did your professor say that to you?
Well, I wrote my very first assignment and we got it back at the beginning of the class, and mine had a red F on it with a circle around it. It said, "See me after class." And I was just like, as you can imagine, in complete panic mode through the entire class. And at the end of the class, I went up to her and I remember her waggling her finger at me with her long red fingernails, and she had a big Rolex all encrusted with diamonds. And she said, "Promise me you'll never write for publication. It's just words, words, words with you." Which I realized later meant that I wasn't great at what I think is probably good newspaper writing, which is very short, concise sentences, keep yourself out of it, very to the point. which makes sense because I actually tried to go to law school and did great at arguing in moot court and terrible at writing the brief because it wasn't short enough. It inserted myself, it included feelings, and it was about emotion and it was narrative. So I think she was basically saying I was too good of a writer to be a writer. That's how I understood it. What do they say, that newspaper writing is like on a third grade level? It has to be written so people can read it quickly and everyone can understand it. It's written for the lowest common denominator. I'm not talking about great New York Times articles. I'm talking about straightforward newspaper, blah, blah, blah. This is what happened at the city council meeting. It's not meant to be fancy. It's meant to get the point across. And maybe I was just too fancy. I don't know. I'd like to talk to her now. I wonder if she has any regrets about saying that to a student, or if that's just how she, I don't know, just how she did things. But it was certainly not how I did things in my classroom. And I had lots of kids who were like football players who would specifically take my class because the rumor was that I, would help students and say to them, hey, I get this isn't your thing, but we can figure this out. Everybody can write. Maybe you're not going to win the Pulitzer, but everyone can write. That was an unfortunate experience. I don't know if it helped me in the long run or hurt me or what, but I'm sort of a no regrets kind of girl. So here we are.
That's a powerful story and experience, Ginny. It really is. So when you made that transition from like journalism into English as your new concentration in school, what was it that brought you back to journalism?
Well, that's kind of crazy too, because I was an English major. I was an honor student. I got excellent grades, and it came to the end and they said to me, English majors tend to either teach or go to law school. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but those tend to be the careers people go into. And both of my parents taught. My dad's a rabbi, but he also teaches. And my mom was a special education teacher. And I was like, I'm not going to do what my parents do. That's crazy talk. So I enrolled in law school, and I lasted about a year and a half, and it just wasn't my cup of tea. Talk about something that's, as gray as possible. And I imagined it to be very black and white. So I actually took off and was an actress for a little while, touring with children's theater companies. And then I called my university and said, I want to come back and get my master's degree. And I heard them put their hand over the phone and say, it's Jenny Block. She wants to come back. And I heard some muffled noise. And then she came back and said, we have one more fellowship. If you'll start teaching the first day of class, you can have it. And I was like, well, if that isn't fate, then I don't know what is. Mm-hmm. So I went back and taught composition and rhetoric, and I got my master's degree, and I started teaching comp and rhet. And then when I would meet people, I'd be like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a writing instructor. And they'll say, well, what do you write? And I think, I write workbooks and test banks and vocabulary quizzes for, academic publishers. And they're like, no, what do you write? And I thought, I don't write anything. What am I doing? And so I basically just sort of forced my way in at a magazine. Someone had told me to go to a writer's conference and just talk to an editor until someone said yes to me. And I did. And I parlayed that story into the next story, into the next story. And to be honest, I shy away from using the word journalist because I greatly respect the work of journalists who do incredible amounts of research and interviews and craft these fact-driven stories. I'm much more of a storyteller. I'm much more of an experiential narrative sharer. I'll go to an event or a show or a concert and tell you what happened, but more how it was for me and how it made me feel and why you may or may not enjoy it. So I call myself a writer rather than a journalist. I don't know if the distinction is necessary, but like I said, I have a great deal of respect for true journalists and don't necessarily count myself in that group. I don't know. My writing mentor said, don't write a book unless you have to. And I have to. I mean, it's like, if you told me I could never write again, I'm not sure what I would do with myself. My brain would probably implode on itself. So it's just, it's not just what I do, it's who I am.
What are some of your writing habits and what is your style as a writer? And do you ever run into writer's block?
People from the outside will tell you my writing habits are terrible. I'm the biggest procrastinator you'll ever meet. I cannot just sit down and write like just cuz like, okay, it's 10 a.m. I have all these writer friends who get up super duper early and follow the book The Artist's Way, where you sit every day at the desk and every day you write something. Even if you write blah blah blah, I have nothing to write. I've tried all those things. My brain writes first and my hand writes second. So if my brain isn't done writing the story, there's no point in sitting down and writing. So my writing habit is when my brain says, okay, it's ready to put it on paper, then I do it. And my wife will tell you I have some really odd habits. Like we'll get on the boat to go out with friends and all of a sudden my brain will be like, now. And I'll jump back on the boat and I'll get my phone and I'll type 1,000 words with my thumbs and put it down. And I may edit it a little, but it's pretty done. The other night I had an essay to do that again, it felt like, I mean, to the outside world, I think people would be saying, you keep putting this off. You've known about this all this time. But it was done in my head. And at 2 a.m., my brain went, okie dokie, it's time. And no exaggeration, I wrote 1,100 words in 40 minutes. And I probably spent another hour the next day editing it. So I think it was Alice Walker who said she channels her characters. She like, sorry, my allergies are driving me crazy. I can hear myself in my ears.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm sick myself.
Yeah, I think it was Alice Walker, and she said she just sits there and they like speak to her. And sometimes I feel like that's what happens to me. That's exactly what happened with Be That Unicorn, because I mean, I got the contract and every day my wife would be like, are you going to get started? Are you going to get started? It's 8 weeks, 7 weeks, 6, you got to write. What's happening? Are you going to write this book? And my brain was just sort of chewing away on it. And I sat down in 6 days, 8 to 10 hours a day, not moving on this very couch, writing, just click, 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 click. And when I read it, some of it I didn't even recognize. Like that's how sort of ethereal the whole experience was. And that to me, that's the best writing. That's authentic writing. That's heart, soul writing. That's the bleeding on the page you want. Now, if you called me tomorrow and were like, you know, I have this article that I really need you to write and can you do it in 2 hours? I'd be like, yeah, if you need me to do this right now, sure, I can bang something out for you. Will it be as good if you gave me more time on it, or if I had an indefinite, or I don't know. I just know that I get things done when they're supposed to be done. I just don't necessarily do them the way people like type A personalities like my wife would do them, you know, in a list with this much time, with plenty of time to fix it. But I remember saying to my dad years ago, like, what do I do? How am I going to survive this procrastination? He says, have you ever gotten in trouble? Have you ever been fired? Have you ever lost your job? Has the procrastination ever hurt you? And I thought, no. I mean, other than people being like, why do you procrastinate? No, it's never hurt me. He's like, well, then that's who you are. You know, it's not, if it's hurting you, then you need to change it. But if that's your craft, you know, there are painters who have to have silence and writers who have to have music, and there are people who have to be here or there. Or I remember Stephen King tells this great story about how he finally made all this money. He built this amazing house. He had built this beautiful office with this desk and this chair, and he sat there like looking around, just unable to write. And so he took a folding chair and a little folding, like, I think it was like a TV tray table, and went back down to the basement and put it up against the cinder block wall, and he started writing again. He just couldn't have all those trappings. So writers are weird. We're artists. We're weirdos. We have, you know, all this stuff going on in our heads. So it's funny because part of Be That Unicorn is about sort of respecting what your process is and not letting other people tell you there's one or another way to do it. Like people are always surprised when I'm like, yeah, I'd love to go bowling, or sure, let's go to the archery field. I'm terrible at all those things, but I don't care. I like doing the thing. I like being with the people who like to do the thing. I don't need to win. I don't even need to be competent. I need to not hurt myself and others. But other than that, it took me a while to sort of honor that in myself. It's okay to like doing stuff that you're terrible at. Like That's just, it's okay to enjoy other people winning or whatever. So I feel like that's how it is with my writing too. That's how I write, so that's how I write.
So Jenny, I love that. I love what you just said, especially about how you deal with the urge to suddenly write, even if you're at a party and with your wife and everything. And then, but at the same time, you're like, I'm disciplined enough to write when you need me to, like to get the deadline by
So
the deadline. So, but with that being said, like when you have more time and when the writing is done in your brain first, is there a difference between your writing when you have that time and it's in your brain versus when you have that tight deadline? Or is your writing still the same, do you think?
that's a great question. Huh. I don't know. I would venture to guess that in general, it's better when it's finished itself writing in my head. But I also know, like I write about local LGBT weddings for a LGBT magazine here in Houston called Outsmart. And the other week there was some mix up and they needed a wedding and they didn't have one. And I had the interview and stuff ready, but I hadn't written it. And I just sort of banged away and it turned out really great. It was like something about being tossed in and having to do it right then. I read the interview and I got sort of excited about their story and wrote it up. On the flip side, I can think of times when it's been like, there are times when I'll review a show. This doesn't happen as much. When I used to work for a paper, I would go see a concert and then I would actually stay at the venue and write the review and have it in by midnight. And again, sometimes they were aces. It was like I was so jazzed up by the show or mad or excited or sad or whatever I was. And so it was really infused with that. And other times I would feel like, I don't know what else to say. Like, it was great. The singer was really good. The music was fun. You're just sort of like, maybe it was times I wasn't inspired. I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know what would happen if like all of a sudden it was like, you have to write all these things right this minute. Would they be as, I don't know. I don't even know how we test that because there's no way to know like how different that story might be if I had more time. Because then there are other things that, I feel like they don't have deadlines at all. Oh, just get that to me when you have a chance. And I just let it sit and sit and sit. And I wonder, and then I finally write it and it's great. And I think, what were you waiting on? Like you knew what you wanted to write. And then I think, well, maybe you didn't. Maybe that's why you sat there. So I can think of one essay that I did it a year and a half after I got the assignment. Because it was just an open-ended, like, yeah, we'd love to have a personal essay on that when the mood strikes you. And I just kept sitting on it. And then when I wrote it, it got like 1 million hits in 2 days or something. It blew up my personal website from people searching me. So yeah,
Wow.
I guess, again, like if that's my process, I don't know. What would have happened if I wrote that same essay a year and a half earlier, like under duress? I don't know. That is an excellent question. I do not know the answer.
But thank you though. It's a very real response. So tell us about Be That Unicorn, the heart and the soul of this wonderful book, and yeah, what you want people to take away from it and such.
Sure. So other than writing and words, people have always said that my superpower is making other people feel really good about themselves. That when they spend time with me, they just think, yeah, I can get that job, or I can do that thing, or I can ask that person out, or there's nothing wrong with me. I'm great just the way I am. And they would say to me, I wish I could like just wrap you up and put you right in my pocket. So all day long you could say, you can do it, you can do it. And I thought, what if I could do that? Like, what if I could put myself in everybody's pocket? What if that's what, that's like Jiminy Cricket. Well, I guess Jiminy Cricket was his conscience, but just this idea that you could have sort of this little person, sort of this little cheerleader with you all the time. So I sat down and just sort of started jotting ideas like, what would I say to someone about what parts of life? And the first couple of publishers that we showed it to, this is hilarious. The first couple of publishers said, oh, unicorns are so over. It just makes me crack up because it just seems like every day there are more unicorns. There's now a unicorn store like at the airport, and there's a new movie that just came out, a new Disney movie, and heroes or somebody in there is unicorns. Like, to me, unicorns are just this sort of, my love affair with them has to do with them being this mythical creature that everybody believes in anyway, or at least some of us believe in anyway. And they're beautiful and shiny, and they walk through rainbows, and they also have a horn if you mess with them. I love that. Like, that to me is so great. Like, no one believes in you, but you believe in you. And if anybody messes with you, you're going to give them the horn. Like, if there's anything else that better describes me, I don't have any idea what it is. So, I mean, the book is really about not just being you, but being the real you, not the like Instagram you, not the curated you, but like the you with those friends, I hope that everyone has, where there's nothing you could say or do or wear or screw up that they wouldn't just be like, whatever. But to be able to take that out in the world feels really crunchy right now in not a nice way. People are not nice to each other. People are not supporting each other. People are very looking out for number one. Everything is super duper plastic. And don't get me wrong, I love fancy clothes and fancy things, and I wear makeup. And I mean, I'm not suggesting like this sort of granola existence. I just feel like people aren't really happy right now. They're just not happy. And I am worried that that happiness has to do with not sort of being allowed to be our authentic selves, whatever that might mean for you. I think a lot about Lady Gaga, who, when she was in college, apparently actually formed a group called, like, Stephanie is a stupid, horrible, untalented person who'll never become anything. That's not what it's called, but it's something like that. And they were just mean to her and bullied her. And you know what she did? She just kept doing her thing. Now she's Lady Gaga. And I wonder about that. Like, how many of us would be in our happy place, whatever that is, being a famous musician or just a happy married person or a boat captain or a president of a bank or a chef or I don't know, whatever your deal is. If we just said, okay, I'm sorry you don't like me for whatever reason it is, but this is who I am and this is my deal. By the same token, to also exist and not be stomping on other people all the time. That saying, hurt people. Well, it seems to me most people are walking around hurt. All of us have been hurt in some way. What if we didn't do that? What if we said hurt people are gentle with other people? I know what it is to be hurt, so I'm not going to do that to you. There's that funny commercial. I'm not sure what it's for, but it's raining or something, and the man holds an umbrella for a woman, and so then the woman sees a baby drop something out of the stroller, so she picks it up, and the mom sees that, so then she holds the door. It's like each nice thing, paying it forward, each nice thing makes someone else do something nice. So that's sort of my fantasy. Be that unicorns about you being you, so then someone else will feel confident about being themselves, and then someone else will do that, and then before you know that, we're just all doing our thing. And unicorns aren't always happy. The world isn't always happy. Sometimes things are really, really, really bad, and you're allowed to be sad, and you can cry, and you can be mad. The question is, what do you do after that? Who do you want to be? And I can think of myself when things have gotten bad, either really sad or really upsetting, or I don't know, trip fell apart, or someone I really liked went away, died, left, moved, whatever. And there was the turmoil, you deal with it and you cry and all that stuff. But then who was I the next minute? Was I then cruel to someone because I was sad? Or was I then like, I think I'm going to go, I'm going to pay for that person's food at the drive-thru. So then I get that little, ooh, I had a bad thing. I did a good thing. And now I feel this much better. And then I do one more and then I feel this much better and this much and this much. And then there I am. I mean, things are what they are, especially right now. So we can either work towards making them better and do our best to feel our best while it's happening, or not. That's it. Those are the only choices. Like, we can't change everything overnight. That's not gonna happen. So we can be part of the solution and be pleasant to be with in the meantime, or not. that's it. It's in some ways it's like silly. When I was a kid, my parents would take my sister and I on all these like outings, like science museums and history museums and touring buildings and stuff. And I remember sometimes I just be like, I don't like this. I don't like history. I don't want to go to that place. My feet hurt. I'm tired. I'm hungry. And my dad would turn around and say to me, listen, this is what we're doing today. So you can either keep on grumping and stay 10 paces behind me because I'm tired of hearing it, or you can have a good time. You can find something in this that interests you. Count the floor tiles, collect the pamphlets at every stop. Think about what you want to buy in the gift store. Start imagining what you would like to have for lunch as you pass the time as we move. But this is what's happening now. And I remember being sort of like, now I'm even madder. Like, don't try to make me have fun. And then of course he was right. Like, and then that's over. And then it is time to go to the gift store and McDonald's for a Happy Meal. So that's not always possible, of course. And that's a very sort of simplified. I'm not talking about having to deal with horrendous things and just saying, oh, everything's fine. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm just saying we always have the choice of how we respond to things. We can always make things worse. So do you want to make it any worse? Isn't your situation crummy enough? And is it making it any better by hurting other people? Now, I definitely believe in standing up for yourself. Like, I have questions about leaning in. If that's your deal and that works for you and you are genuinely happy doing that, that's great. To my mind, I worry about that sometimes. What does that mean to just, okay, well, that's how we're doing it, so I'm just gonna, sometimes that's not okay. It isn't. You have to say, I'm not comfortable with that policy. I'm not, if my dad was some horrible man and was like, we're gonna go to the Confederate, I'm glad we killed all them Yankees museum. It would not be a good idea for me to be a happy-go. It would be a good idea for me to say, no, Dad, that is disrespectful, and we don't celebrate the deaths of people. Not going. It's about being honest about this thing, that gut thing that I think too many of us ignore. We do it when we date. Oh, 8 million red flags. I think I'll date them anyway. About trips or adventures, like all these other people had a terrible time doing that. I think I'll do that too. Like, what happened to us? Be That Unicorn is really about looking inward and outward at the same time and saying, what really feels authentic to me and how can I do that gently in the world? Because that's the only way we're gonna get through and come out on top.
Wow. Wow, Jenny. One of the things I love that you shared in the book, Be That Unicorn, is going to the amusement park and you found that you were kind of holding everyone's belongings and stuff while they went and had fun. You decided you didn't want to be that person anymore. So can you just talk more about that?
Sure. When I was younger, I was always the person who would, hold the coats. Like, oh, you guys go. I'll just hang on to everything, or I'll hold the lunch table, or I'll keep this bench for us. Like, I don't know what I was afraid of. Everything, probably, like falling off the horse or rolling down the mountain or looking stupid. I think I was really afraid of that. I wasn't not athletic. I never have been. And instead of saying like, I'll take the slower horse or I'll keep score or doing something that suited me, I just would say, no, I'm fine. You guys do all the fun things. So then years and years and years later, I think I might have been 40 at that point. I was at Disney World with my then girlfriend and my daughter, and I'd never been on a roller coaster before. And they were going to wait in line to go on Splash Mountain. And they begged me, please, please, please go with us. Okay. So we wait in line, and we finally get to on Splash Mountain. They call it the point of no return. And I remember standing there and looking over to my right, and there was this bench with all these like exhausted mommies with all these snotty kids hanging on them and crying, and like all the Disney junk that they had bought all sitting around them, and mommy, I hate this. Oh, it's so hot. And the mom's just looking like, what is my life right now? And then to my left were all these people like, we're almost there. We waited half an hour. It's almost our turn. Yay, Splash Mountain, woohoo. And I thought, wow, if that isn't a metaphor for life, I don't know what is. Do you want to get off the ride or do you want to get on it? And I thought, I want to be on the ride. 40 years old, I want to be on the ride. So I stayed and I went on the ride. And guess what? I didn't die. Like I didn't throw up on anybody. I didn't, nothing terrible happened. Did I love it? And I don't know that stomach drop thing is really my deal, but my daughter was thrilled. My girlfriend was thrilled that I got to be with them. And so from that point on, I made it the year of yes, where whatever I was asked to do, I said yes to, as long as it was legal and did not have a high risk of death. And because I was a member of the media, I would get invited on a lot of things. And I would always joke, the goal of a press trip is not to kill the media. So they're not going to invite you to do something and be like, "Ooh, good luck. We'll see how this goes." So I learned how to scuba dive. I fed sharks. I rappelled down a 21-story building. I drove ATVs across Caribbean islands. I mean, you name it, I did it. And all of a sudden I was like in it. I was just in it. And I was finding myself able to help other people who would be like, "Oh, I don't know. I'd say, you know what? We're going to be fine. Let's just do this. It'll be more fun than sitting it out." And finding that people would, okay, if you're going to do it, if all 5 feet of you is going to do it, I can do it too. I learned how to ski. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't want to sit on the bench anymore. I want to be the one with the best stories in the nursing home, and that wasn't going to happen by holding everybody's coats.
Wow. So, okay, that's a great story. So, Jenny, tell us more about the year of the yes and whether or not you think that this is something that people should apply to their life.
Sure. So the year of yes turned into sort of the life of yes. Like if I was asked to do something or an adventure came up, I didn't let fear lead me. I let, sort of excitement and curiosity lead me. And I think it has to be authentic to you. Like if you're terrified of heights, I mean, maybe start with a staircase. Don't go climbing any mountains, but don't limit yourself. I would suggest that people not limit themselves by their make-believe limits and instead make choices based on limits that make sense for them. So example, can't afford something and you have to mortgage your home, not a good idea. If you're saying you can't afford something because you're actually scared to do it, maybe it's time to reassess why you're saying no to that once-in-a-lifetime trip. If you're waiting forever to do the thing, maybe it's time to do it because I don't even know what forever means. I don't want to be in Alanis Morissette song, like I don't know if all those things really are ironic, but they certainly are disappointing. You don't want to finally take that trip only to have that, the plane crash or the lottery ticket to be a winner and then die or any of those things. Like the year of yes helps you to sort of preempt that, or the life of yes rather. So, when I had a child, I made a rule for myself that I was never going to say no to something without a reason, that I would be able to explain to her, this is why I'm saying no. So can I have someone sleep over 5 nights in a row? No, that's probably not a great idea because typically you don't get a lot of sleep at a sleepover and by then you'll be crushed. But can you do it 2 nights in a row? 3 nights if you promise to actually go to bed? Sure. What sort of arbitrary rule is so many parents, like my parents had the only 1 night, like what was going to happen exactly? Or the more than 1 piece of candy or I don't know, whatever the thing was. I wanted there to be the reason you can't eat your entire Halloween bucket is not because I'm mean. It's because you'll throw up. Like it's not. So I ask people to not say no to themselves without a reason. Why really? What's the real reason why you're not doing that thing? I mean, a lot of things I didn't do is I was afraid of making an ass of myself. And you know what? No one cares. If I had thrown up on the ride, it would have been really annoying for the people who worked there. But everyone would have been like, "Oh, poor thing. She probably shouldn't have had that second cotton candy." Like, nobody cares. My dad always says in the nicest possible way, no one cares about you or what you do. Like, you think the whole world's watching you. Nobody's watching. Nobody. And we're like limiting ourselves. We're like not going out and like, I can't go out and, you know, I didn't do my hair. Well, do you want to miss the thing or do you want to do your hair? Like who's making these choices? So I think living a yes life, living a life of abundance, living like that unicorn is about saying, okay, self, what are you really saying to me? Are you really just scared you're going to lose? Who cares if you lose? So everyone else gets the better bowling score. You get to be with your friends. And if anyone's being mean to you about it, you need new friends, not to not go bowling. Looking outside because a rainbow is coming up, and I'm thinking, oh, if that's not a metaphor for everything. Yeah, we have to start being gentler with ourselves, with other people, with the world. And we have to, I'm going to say that. I'm going to say we have to. I don't generally believe in bossing people around, but I do believe in bossing people around when it comes to being nicer when that is warranted, which is 90% of the time, and to stand up for ourselves when that is required, which whatever percentage of your life that's required, we have to start doing this. Not shitting all over you. I would never do that, but we have to do that because things are not good right now. They're not the way they should be, and most of it's because we're not thinking about our true selves or the value and worth of other people, which is exactly equal to ourselves. It's not really that complicated, and it almost feels like it's so simple we're not doing it. It's kind of like keeping your body healthy. You know, you have to eat things that are your body wants and needs, and you have to move around. You know, people would rather be like, here, take this pill or join this magic club. It's not really any magic. The magic is you. Magic is all the stuff you do. There's no magic in the rest of that. It's really a lot of common sense. That unicorn uses his or her unicorn brain, which is the one that says stop. What's really happening in here? What's really happening in your brain, and what's really happening in that other person's brain? It's a miracle. It's a game changer. Somebody gets upset with you and you say, hang on a minute, before I yell back, why are they really yelling? Oh, they had a really bad day. Okay. Hey, seems like you had a really bad day today. Before we get into this discussion, which feels like it's going nowhere fast, why don't we go get a bite to eat? Why don't we share an ice cream cone? Then we'll talk about it. Total respect for their experience and total diffusion. We don't think about what's happening in that other person's head. How about in our own head? Oh, this traffic is driving me crazy. I'm going to cut everybody off. Wait a minute. It's traffic. You're the one who got on the road at 6 o'clock in Houston, Jenny. So if we're feeling that intense about it, how about we get off the road and have a cup of coffee, and then in an hour when it dissipates, we can get on the road? Or how about we put on our favorite podcast? How about we just do that and just enjoy the podcast as long as we're in the car? You're not helping anyone by freaking out, and you're definitely not going to help anyone by cutting them off. We forget to think about where things are coming from. And if we can't do that, we can't solve anything. And we definitely can't control ourselves.
And Jenny, final question. What advice do you have for writers and authors?
I am going to share the advice that my writing mentor shared, but in share. That's my favorite piece of advice. You can't write if you're not writing, and you're not writing if you're not writing, and you won't write if you're not writing. So if you're a brain writer like me, think all those things. Do whatever you need to do to let your brain do that thinking. Tell people you need some time alone, or go for that walk, or have a little space wherever you live. Do the thinking, do the writing, and quiet the inner critic. He does not know what he's talking about. He is always wrong. Always, always, always wrong. You are smart enough. You are creative enough. You are strong enough, good enough. There is room in your life for writing. You're creative enough. Everyone else in the world is not 10 times better than you. Writing is for you. If you're writing for you, everything else is extra. Someone else loves it. One other person loves it. Great. Your mom enjoys it. Terrific. Somebody wants to pay you $1 for it. Amazing. You become a New York Times bestseller. Fabulous. But start with write the words because they're demanding to be written. Because I was going to say it won't write itself. It might write itself up here, but the getting it down here, only you can do that. And only you can write what you're writing. if you deprive the world of that, those thoughts, they might never come out. Imagine if the greats, like, what if Alice Walker was just like, oh, I'm not interesting enough, or I really should just cook more for my family and stop with this silly writing nonsense. Where would we be now? You know, what if Toni Morrison was just like, oh, why do I think I'm a writer? I'm no writer. I'm just some woman. I can't do this. Imagine if they allowed their inner critics to shut them up like so many people do. Tell your inner critic that I said to get lost. If you can't do it, then let me be the bad guy. I am no longer interested in what your inner critic has to say, and you shouldn't be either. If you are driven to write, then you just have to write. You have to just write.
And on that note, Jenny Block, everyone. Jenny, thank you so much for talking to So Booking Cool today. It was truly a pleasure. Let everyone know how they can keep up with you and how they can get Be That Unicorn as well as your other books.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, you are very, very welcome. I so enjoyed being here. So thank you for having me. You can find me in all sorts of places. You can find me on bethatunicorn.net, and you can order a signed copy of the book there, which you'll get directly from me. You can also click the Amazon link from there if you prefer to use Amazon. You can find me at thejennyblock.com if you want to find my other writing. You can click the book tab there to find my other books, which will take you to Amazon. You can find me on Instagram at thejennyblock and also at bethatunicorn. Same with Facebook. And on Twitter, I'm Jenny_Block. It's tricky when you're Jenny Block, when there was, you know, Jennifer Lopez being Jenny from the Block. That complicated things greatly for me. So I was grateful when she decided that wasn't really her gig anymore. Although the Super Bowl, for those of you who watched it, she played that, and I thought, oh, you're killing me here, J-Lo. But yeah, otherwise I'm the Jenny Block instead of Jenny from the Block. But you can find me in all those places, and I hope you will.
Yes, I hope you guys will too. Isn't Jenny awesome? So yeah, I would love to talk with you again in the future, Jenny. And,
absolutely, anytime. Happy to do it.
Thank you. That is fantastic. And to all the listeners, thank you. And until next time, So Booking Cool.